About the only way to tell I'm live is because, well, let's see if it's working. If you get on early, you'll see me talking to myself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. We're going to talk about complicated stuff today. So if you don't like that, you might not want to hang on for the show. But let's start out over here with NOYB. Not sure what that stands for. Sued Meta the day that GDPR launched in 2018, May of 2018. And 4.5 years later, it's gotten more interesting. So what's happened is that they launched the lawsuit against Meta and therefore Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, because what happened was on the night of the beginning of GDPR, Meta redefined their user terms and conditions, which no one reads, and said, and this was done in conjunction with the Irish Data Privacy Commission. In 10 private meetings, they cooked this up, and they said, well, what we'll do is we'll say that our subscribers, or whatever they call them, usually they call them users, which is kind of dehumanizing, but our users expect us to personalize their ads. They demand personalized advertising, tailored content to their needs, and as part of this expectation on the part of our customers, we're bound and required to to steal their data without consent. It's a great deal. So they moved the consent. They waived themselves. They said we're not only not required to give we're not required to have consent to use the data. We're required to use their data, and it's a necessary condition of our user agreement. We promise to personalize their ads, and so therefore we're exempt from the anyway. So here's an explanation from NOYB. Not sure what that stands for.
Hey there. So 4.5 years ago, midnight, when the GDPR kicked in, we actually filed 3 complaints against Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, so all Meta companies. And the issue was that Facebook used to use consent for using your data, for example, for advertisement. And consent has a lot of conditions, like it has to be informed, unambiguous, specific, freely given. You can withdraw it at any time.
For some reason we're having problems playing this
So for example,
video.
for advertisement, they would have to give you a yes or no option if your data is used for advertisement or not. Now, Facebook didn't like that too much. They wanted to use that data all the time and without asking people, really. So they had the great idea of putting this consent clause into their terms and conditions at midnight when the GDPR kicked in. And because they said this is now a contract and not consent anymore, the laws for consent do not apply, but only for contractual law. And the contractual law requirements are a bit lower than for consent. Now, the question was, is that okay? And can they simply take all away these nasty rights by doing this little bypass? And the DPC, the Irish regulator, actually said that's fine. They even had 10 meetings with Facebook to actually agree on all of that. But all of that now hit the European Data Protection Board, where the other regulators in Europe sit in. And they actually now overruled the DPC and said, no, this has to be separate consent. And people actually have the right to say yes or no if their data is used, for example, for advertisement, which is great news because people can actually say, I want to use social networking, for example, but I don't want my data to be shared and used for advertisement and other purposes, and now have this choice in the future. So I think a pretty good win, and we're very happy about all of that.
Okay, well, that was fun. And it was a nice, concise explanation, so I liked that part. So what happens is that Meta and, well, now they'll, the Irish Commission still says that Meta can do whatever they want, partly because Meta's based in Ireland and probably has a lot of people there and contributes a lot to the economy or something else. Those commissioners, when the European Commission decided against Meta, it didn't give noyb.edu a copy of the decision. It said, no, this decision only is related to Meta, even though NOYB is the organization that brought the suit in the first place. They just didn't inform them of the contents of the suit to allow Meta and the DCP, the Irish DCP, to frame the decision however they'd like. It seems the cooperation between Meta and the Irish regulator is alive, well and alive, despite being overruled by the EDPB. So that's kind of funny. I thought you'd enjoy that. Okay, LSC closure. Sad news a little bit. Closure of former R.R. Donnelley plants caused by decline in demand for print catalogs and magazines. Okay, I just got a magazine in the post. I got a magazine today in the post. I don't remember subscribing to it. The new GQ. There's a man of the year. I think it's a man. I don't know. No wonder magazines are declining. Anyway, I can't tell what it's about. You need to be more clear on your cover statement, I think. What is this about? Or maybe they are clear, and I'm just out of it, which is more likely true. Anyway, so Lisa goes, there's a lot of stuff in here about, what it means to the community and how they've been there since 1958. However, it also says that first as to the cause. Our customers are reducing their page counts and print runs, and some are converting to other marketing channels, forcing us to closely examine our operations and position ourselves for winning in a new marketplace, Maine said. So this goes a little along with those print predictions that I gave you earlier in the week. The other interesting part is that the LSC properties are zoned industrial, which is highly desirable as the county faces a shortage of industrial property for business to expand or relocate. So it sounds to me they're going to move the business to Maple Grove and also in Indiana, Maple Grove, Minnesota. And it sounds to me like it's a chance to sell the property more than it is a lack of demand for catalogs. That's just my own opinion. And if anybody from LSC would like to reach out and prove me wrong, I'm happy to hear it. Because, on one hand, I'm reading a lot of things about improved interest in cataloging and a lot of direct-to-consumers, tiptoeing into it. I've tried to work with these big printers literally for decades to teach their customers, the catalog brands themselves, the incredible ways that you can increase circulation. And we've done it over and over and over. And Quad noticed it. They selected us to do that. But then when Harry passed away, that sort of their priorities changed. I have reached out to Joel a few times that we really can increase circulation for people. But anyway, so on another note, fact-checking pandemic trend predictions by Samuel Scott from The Drum. And he says, if I invest in widgets and then proclaim that widgets are the next big thing, is that legitimate promotion, jumping on the bandwagon, or engaging in a pump and dump scheme? Could be all three at the same time. It could be the next thing. It could also be legitimate, that you believe in it. And it could also be that you know that if the parade or the bandwagon gets moving, you can sell your company for a lot of money. So he looks into some of the predictions that were made a couple of years ago. Some came true, some did not, but it isn't really clear. Like here he says, James Altucher says, New York City is dead forever. But then, according to a local news channel, New York One, the city is 73% back to normal. Okay, now, if you had a car and it had a flat tire, it would be 75% okay. Just saying. I did that off the top of my head. Math on the fly, right? 75% ready to go. You ever try and drive a car with a flat tire? It doesn't really go. I once had a car with 3 flat tires at once. I went over some stuff in the road, and you can't drive it at all, but even one. Okay, so whether that's true or not is hard to say, and sadly, sadly, Samuel, almost called him Scott. Samuel doesn't really give a take on these things. He doesn't say whether this is fulfilled or not fulfilled. Is New York City dead if it's 73% back to normal? Could be, right? If you're there's so many examples, you know. When an army is on the move, if it loses 10% of its equipment, it can be completely disabled. Companies will experience a temporary downturn, but are robust enough to survive the shock. We will see their stocks return to pre-corona levels. Well, and he mentions Hudson News, American Airlines, and Carnival. Hudson News was 40 cents a share. Now it's 3 cents a share. 10% of the value. American Airlines is half what it was. Carnival is still down sharply. Peloton will outlive the coronavirus. $30 in January 2020, $162 in December 2020, and $11 a share today. And there was a lot of that going on. There was a really big opportunity. I actually bought some stocks in March of 2020, and they went up really well, but then, a few months later, they weren't so good. And, everything's gone down in 2022. I guess it's been the worst year since 1878 or something. So that could be true across the board. U.S. colleges, we're going to see dozens, maybe hundreds of universities not reopen. At least 24 U.S. colleges and universities have indeed closed. I think college basketball saved a lot of them, though. A Gallup survey in June 2022 found that 8 in 10 people are now working hybrid or remotely. But Fast Company said in May 2020, the office is dead. But I know, I just talked with a business owner last week or the week before, and he said they're requiring everybody to come in. If you don't want to come in, you don't want to work here. So Elon Musk. And another business owner was talking in September, an acquaintance, and he said that, the warehouse workers had to stay. They had to pack the boxes and ship the stuff to keep in business. The IT people set up remote networking for themselves and could stay home. He said that the warehouse people resented it a lot, and now they're basically bringing the IT people in, not because they need to, but because the rest of the company doesn't like it. And so here's some trends that you can see the line. We're right back to where we would have been if it had not happened, sort of. Even in interest in business suits. I'm going to a wedding next weekend, and my wife said I'm wearing my suit. I'm wearing a suit. Okay, and it's like the trend lines are just boom right across the board. And he's got some suggestions. Remember that many hype technologies and products will fail. Okay, and he shows this hype cycle, but some of them just go down and punk, that they never recover. There's an initial enthusiasm, and if you can keep in business, there may be a real business there. And this is pretty normal, but I would say most of them crash and burn right there. That's true. Pay attention to the predictions of those who matter, which he says basically is the people, not the people selling the systems that they're saying are the next big thing, but rather the people who make a living by looking over the industry as a whole. The more the bandwagons, the less credible. Never forget what marketing truly is, but he ends up with ChatGPT is the new NFT or the new QR code. QR codes have come into business and are not even beginning to see all of their implications because they connect the virtual world with the real world. And that is something. And also he says marketing is basically the same thing. You got to tell people what you're doing. And I added test, test, and more test, which he left out. That's direct marketing. So have a great weekend. I've got a call with one of the biggest mailers in America, and we're going to try and invent something new. Have a great day. Happy New Year.